a mile now, according to some metrics. I'm going to talk about the percentage chance of JD Vance dropping out, not dropping out, but getting kicked out by Donald Trump. I'm going to tell you something that I was amusingly wrong about. That's always fun. And then what's the state of the race? Biden or Kamala? I'm sorry, Trump or Kamala Harris? Who's winning? And so we all often talk about polling. This is going to be a little bit different. Hold first, as always. Monday through Friday, we're live at 6 o'clock. We have all the details on all the stories, and we have a ton of fun. So make sure you're watching the show live. Make sure you're hitting the member button. Okay, the join button down below to become a Young Turk. So there's two things I look at. There's the polling, and then there's the betting markets. Now we have Polymarket is one of our sponsors. You guys know about it because I say it in the top of the live show every day. And so I check that market every once in a while. The funny thing that I was wrong about is I did a video where I don't know, a week ago or so, where Kamala Harris, they had it at her at 84% chance of being the nominee, and I was like, I don't know about that, man. I think some of these other Democrats, and yeah, it's possible. That was right in the beginning when she first came out, and she obviously had not had the delegates locked up at that point, etc. Spectacularly wrong. She's at 98% now, and obviously, I mean, she should be at exactly 98%. It's not 100% because the delegates technically haven't voted yet, but they're gonna vote, and they're gonna vote for her. So okay, so get that one out of the way. Fun to be wrong every once in a while. So every once in a while, I am amusingly smug sometimes. Okay, so now. JD Vance, what are the chances that he's going to drop out? Then I'll get to the VP in a second. Again, not drop out, but be replaced as a Republican nominee. And so I was curious about this one because there's a lot of chitter chatter about it. And I wondered if it affected the markets. And so it turns out the answer is no, not really. The markets are pretty savvy. So they only have it at 9% chance that JD Vance is going to be replaced. So if you think he's going to be replaced, well, that's attractive, right? That it's only 9%. But I'm with the markets on this one. I'm worried because every time I talk about where I am with the markets, I'm like, wait, am I going to be wrong about that one? So no, it would be unbelievable to replace Vance. If they replace Vance, that means they've pretty much already lost because they're in panic mode. They're flailing. They look weak, etc. I mean, don't tell them. I would love it if they replaced Vance. One, because Vance would be gone, and he's a little bit of a danger, right? Doesn't necessarily believe in liberal democracy. That's definitely problematic. But anyways, I don't want to get back into that old conversation. But mainly because it would mean that they were almost certainly going to lose. Okay, so that was interesting. I'm kind of surprised at where the overall market is, a little bit surprised as to who's going to win. But let me go to the main event that I promised you guys, the Democratic VP nominee. So you guys heard the other night when I told you Kamala Harris is going to announce before Tuesday who her VP pick is, and then her first big rally before she goes to Wisconsin, Arizona, and all those places is in Philly. So people think, oh, that might mean or must mean that it's Josh Shapiro. It definitely doesn't. It's not a must mean at all. But does it mean that it's more likely to be Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania? Yeah, of course it does. So that's why I was curious. Well, okay, how did the markets react to that? Because before they had Mark Kelly in the lead, Josh Shapiro was second, but they were both in the 20s. Now, and this is betting markets, so people are actually putting their money where their mouth is. But the important part of that for our purposes is the wisdom of the crowd. And I definitely believe in the wisdom of the crowd. And so a lot of people that are pundits don't. They think that the masses are not smart, they're not sophisticated, they didn't go to Yale, they don't know. No, now the crowd is not always right at all, and you see us swim against the tide all the time on the Young Turks, right? But in situations like this, they do get it right a lot more often than certainly than the average pundit, for sure. So I believe in looking at both the markets and the polling. So now Josh Shapiro is at 69% likelihood of being the VP. So they think the betting markets think it's already over. So you can check it out on polymarket.com. And Andy Bashir is in second. Mark Kelly's dropped to third. Mark Kelly's down at 9%. Tim Walz, a lot of people are excited. I like Tim Walz. He's at 9%. Andy Bashir is is in second with 10%. And then Buttigieg is down at 2%, and everybody else is under a 1. So this thing's almost over. Now they could be wrong, but given Philadelphia rally, given that everybody was reporting that it was for a long, every day keeps switching. They brought Walz in, they brought Buttigieg in, and they were all over TV. But the top two leading contenders have consistently been Mark Kelly and Josh Shapiro, and I would have put Bashir as consistently third. But now these combination of events leads you to believe Shapiro might be it. By the way, a lot of people check out my video about Shapiro, and I'll add one thing about the polling about Shapiro that I didn't add in that video. I think Shapiro's our second best candidate at a minimum among the contenders, right? I wanted Raskin, Bernie's a wonderful pipe dream, et cetera. It was never going to happen. We know that. Although it would be great and they would win, but okay, let's put our dreams aside. Among the contenders, Tim Walz is great, and Josh Shapiro's got economic populist roots that I'm very encouraged by, very strategic. They say he's terrible on Israel, but that one's much more complicated. And I explained that in the earlier video. He's actually been super harsh against Netanyahu and way early on, all the way in January. So don't believe the hype about if you're hearing, oh, Josh Shapiro is terrible on Israel. They're all terrible on Israel. Nobody's going to cut the funding. Keep it real, right? So, but in Pennsylvania, he's at 61% approval rating. That's a monster number in this day and age, especially in a state as split as Pennsylvania. So Donald Trump's at 46%. Kamala Harris is at 49% in Pennsylvania. So Josh Shapiro is 12 points higher than Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania. People are concerned, oh, is he going to be a problem in Michigan? I don't think so. But what I do know is he's pretty and I never believe in picking based on states. I thought picking Tim Kaine based on Virginia being a swing state was so, not strategic, not the way to go, old school. But in this case, you really need Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. It's not negotiable. And he would come as close to locking up Pennsylvania as you could possibly get. And that would be enormous. So this is an exception where that would make a big, big difference. So his polling is great. Now at Polymarket, he's doing great. Now, one more thing. Let me go to who's going to win, right? And now Kamala Harris is beginning to inch up because you're seeing in the polls, she's got a 4-point lead in Pennsylvania. Trump in one poll had a 12-point lead in Nevada. Now against Biden, now Kamala Harris is tied with him in Nevada. So she's soaring up these the polling in the swing states overall. So Nate Silver's right that she hasn't caught Trump yet. If the election were held today, Trump would probably win. But the election is not going to be held today. It's going to be held in 4 months. And yes, the momentum will shift a bunch of times, but right now Kamala Harris has terrific momentum. Donald Trump has terrible momentum. So when I look at these odds, I go, really? So they have Trump at 55% likely to win and Kamala Harris at 43%. I like those odds for Kamala Harris. 12 points lower. 12 points lower. Right now, if you put me to a decision, I'd say not if the election is held today. When it's held in November, I'd say, yeah, Kamala Harris is more likely to win. And it's 55-43 for Trump. I get it if you're looking at the snapshot of today, but I don't think the snapshot of today is going to hold. So, and by the way, this is funny. They have Michelle Obama. And this is not they as in the market, as in the people running Polymarket. It's as in the people betting, right? They have Michelle Obama still at 1%. So they're like, nope, we don't think she's gone. We still think she's going to come back. And I don't think that's hopeful Democrats. I think that's conspiratorial Republicans. So it wasn't a crazy conspiracy because Joe Biden had to go and people did consider Michelle Obama, but that ship is now totally sailed. But she's hanging in there in the markets. So, all right, that's your market update. I'm endlessly fascinated by this. I hope you found it instructive too. But one last thing on the actual VP pick. I think that you guys are going to be pleasantly surprised by a lot of things about Josh Shapiro. So if it really is him, don't worry. Of course, I'll try to hold him accountable to the best of my ability and etc. on the laws against protesters. Unacceptable. What he said about the protesters, unacceptable, right? But of all the different contenders, he's actually been by far the harshest of the Israeli government. So I think people totally misunderstand this. But if even if I'm wrong on that, I'll double down, I'll quadruple down in holding him accountable. But check out my earlier video about him holding Wall Street accountable, going after predatory lenders, switching out the pension funds from giant Wall Street firms, etc. So there's some chance that you should kind of be excited that it might be Josh Shapiro. I am. I think it's probably the right way to go. Again, exception of Tim Walz would also be terrific, but you know how safe Democrats are. They're not going to want to pick the guy now that is considered the most progressive, which is Governor Walz of Minnesota. They're going to want to split the difference, and Josh Harris is, in their mind, splitting the difference. But I think that he might be a strategic economic populist. But I don't want to say too much for fear of jinxing it or having them find out before they pick him, because I don't want them picking a strictly corporatist guy like Mark Kelly or Pete Buttigieg. Benjamin Gilbert Lift, thank you for the super chat. You're awesome. And I'll look into what you're saying for tomorrow's show. And when's tomorrow's show, guys? Right, 6 o'clock Eastern, as it is every day, Monday through Friday. All right, much love, guys. I'll see you there. And hit the join button. It is beautiful. Oh, and by the way, don't forget, speaking of things I was wrong about, well, depending on how you take it, could have been considered right, could have been considered wrong, but certainly didn't win. But a fun old shirt. Just, it's not at shoptyt.com. I'm just having fun. All right, much love.